Stanford Watson was born in Lucy, Hanover, so many years ago. He attended primary and high school before migrating to Kingston to attend art school. Is that Edna Manley? You just said art school?
It was Jamaica School of Art.
It was the Jamaica School. It's a long time. Graduated in, I'm not going to put a year here, I'm going to leave out a year. All right. Graduated in 1983, Mr. Watson has been a part of the Jamaican art scene, teaching art in all levels, exhibiting local and internationally. He currently lectures at the Edna Manley College for the Visual and Performing Arts. Being the Visual Arts Coordinator at the Multicare Youth Foundation, and that's a big deal for him, you would notice, he will introduce himself with that first before he goes to Edna Manley. It's about, that is his soft spot. The MYF, Multicare Youth Foundation, is one of the highlights of Mr. Watson's life. He gets a chance to impart his knowledge of art and his penchant for caring for the children of the inner city schools and communities in which he works. Without much ado, I'd like to bring to you Mr. Stanford Watson.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. Now, I was supposed to talk and I write things but I want to discard them. Having stepped in here and hearing everybody, and then there are new titles and topics that you want to pursue. But first thing, I'm kind of proud also. I think I've taught maybe half the people in this room. And through I work at the Multicare Foundation, Michelle at high school, and other people at Edna Manley. And through my work at the Multicare Foundation, I've interacted I work with 29 schools, primary and high schools. So there are some people inside here who, we have been chatting and doing art for a long time. So, and when I came in here, I was sweating. Well, the AC kind of, but I am in good company, so it's okay. Airport art is part of a tradition. I've been a part of one in 2009 in Baltimore, and all over the world, airport art. So this is a good thing, and I am proud of it, glad for it. I'm kind of new to it, but I appreciate that it exists and that people are taking part. I wish you could get some of the people with the same kind of energy to enter things like the JCDC, their panel of judge at some point. I was on their committee. So I think I have some authority to talk on some of the stuff that I was initially allotted 1 hour. I wanted to talk maybe for 5 minutes, and so we might end up 15 minutes. Alright, so one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the fundamentals of art is because I had some concern. I think, especially in the primary schools, the opportunity to teach the fundamentals has been waning over a period of time. There are some changes, and I think because in the primary school, for instance, you're a math teacher, you're probably asked to teach art, and I don't know that one semester at Teachers College would have prepared you enough to teach primary school, where it's a critical period, and I'm going to eventually talk about also the developmental process. I might sound a little bit school teacherish, but you have to bear with me a little bit. At that point, you might want to fall asleep, but So we talk about the fundamentals, and I'm going to read, and you don't have to write, because what I did is what everybody does: Google, and you get some of the information, right? So because the fundamentals, what I got from Google, But I, over the years, based on my practice, have developed my own fundamentals, what is important to me. And even I regard what I do as somewhat what I call it conceptual intuitivism. What it means that I go to school, I learn all I need to learn, and then I come back and say, well, I don't have to depend on them too, because it can be an intuitive process. It's a lot of spontaneity. I respond to whatever is happening at the time, never mind what is going on in my head. So if you will excuse me. But let me read what I got from Google, and so that we can, because I know we're also running behind. All right, so let me confuse you. Yeah, and so there may be some dispute as to which principle are most important. But here are the ones that occur most often. Emphasis. So, and you see, when you're teaching, and we're going to get to where we talk about, again, the developmental process, and I'm going to talk about these things. But you can't really pick them when they're just creating. You have to be mindful in terms of how you correct. So you have to be mindful of these principles, and that's how you teach them. But from the beginning, you don't meet them and discard the work that they do based on how they do. If you want to look at some of the world, look at the use of the color of children. It's probably the most beautiful thing you can think of. And it comes out of their soul. So we have to appreciate that. All right, so it says that emphasis, and this is when one part of a composition stands out so that it becomes a focal point, or when several parts of a composition stand out as accent. You can find these on Google, but it is important when you're critiquing the work. It's part of a critiquing process. When you're critiquing the work, you take these things into consideration, not for killing them, but for directing them. Variety, a sense of different. Before we move on, what I wanted this to really be a reasoning still. So, yeah, I wanted this to be a reasoning. I am giving you these points, and you can interrupt me, and when I finish reading them, we can talk about some of your experiences as well, and how in terms of the fundamentals, how we can bring it back into the school and how it might strengthen the work that the children do. So I'm going to stop, I'm going to just continue. Alright, movement refers to the direction that the viewer's eyes take as they move from one element to another through the composition. Movement can be controlled and directed by the artist through the use of lines, actual or implied, the distribution of shapes, the contrast and similarity of colors as values through the use of directional patterns. Very simple. Balance is the visual distribution of weight throughout the composition. There is more, but I'm going to move on. Because there's an area that I want to get to. Unity is an overall sense of cohesiveness within a composition, and unity can be achieved through proximity, grouping, repetition, containment, closure, and continuity. In fact, any kind of similarity or visual elements within a composition will strengthen its sense of unity. Rhythm, very important, is the repetition of marks and intervals throughout the composition as to create rhythmic patterns. Rhythm can be depicted as regular, circular, eccentric. Sorry if I sound like in school. Proportion, the size of one shape or part. Let me tell you proportion because I teach figure drawing, and one of the problems that the student coming to school with is a proportion problem. So size relationship is something that is foreign to them, and it's a whole process to get them to learn what is the size of this that is near to you as opposed to the size of that is further away from you. That kind of thing. And these are very, very important things. So we were on proportion. Scale is the apparent size of an object or a shape in a composition compared to what we would expect its size to be in actuality. Scale can be depicted as natural, where a shape or object appear the size that we expect it to be. diminutive, where a shape or object appears smaller than we expect. You know, in a lot of cases they don't teach perspective anymore as a topic. Why? All right. So we don't even know why. One of the reasons I think though is that some of the teachers don't know. Some of the teachers don't know, but
sir, we're learning science, technology, engineering, and math. We have to preach that into the classroom.
wait now, let me ask. What can you think of now that you will do or experience that does not involve art? No, you know. Everything is art, and if you understand that, we wouldn't have to be contemplating whether A should be in STEM. You know, it would be there. All right, so we have to change the absence of the A and make it actually STEAM. As she says, I know it's not your fault. It's not your. I blame you. But we have to go there, because if we want these children to be innovative, it's all of these fundamentals that we have to return to. For figure drawing at Manley now from first year, you have to include perspective, only because it is not included in the 2D class, that kind of thing. In my time, we used to have to go to New Kingston and draw. It is so important. You become so aware of your environment, just knowing how perspective works, just understanding what happens in space when things are in space. You have a coin and you turn and it changes, the top of the table changes when you sit or when you stand. Those kind of things make it so much easier for you to invent. And if you have an idea, to articulate that idea, join, continue. Alright, so I was saying that I was kind of preaching to the converted. So I remember when I was learning to teach, there's a theorist, Victor Lowenfeld, I don't know if anybody know of him, and everybody who's a teacher inside here should know of this person, because what he seeks out is artistic development. Freud talk about psychosexual development, that kind of thing. He speaks about artistic development, and therefore the importance of mark making. And after I read him, I kind of forget a lot of the things. But then I was teaching at the Manley. There was on a Saturday, some children come by, and it dispelled, at least my experience, it dispelled enough of the things that he was talking about. But it is important anyway, because in some cases is what we have to live by in terms of how we understand how children develop. So before we start to think that the picnic can't draw and can't do this and can't do that, we understand that this is the age and this is how they are going to be until they learn that they can do it differently, and they do it differently as them grow. So the first stage, and this is age 1 to 3, they scribble. So you'll find that your 1-year-old and your 3-year-old is going to make mark on your fridge. And what usually happens sometimes, you beat them, right? Alright, so we know now, so we don't beat them because it's part of them conversation to and how them developing, and the best thing you can do is find books, give them and direct them, drawing this all the time. As a matter of fact, they might end up to be muralists. So they maybe just need to clean up the wall and allow them to do what they're doing. Alright, so he said the scribblers and children at this stage are engaged in the physical activity of drawing. First thing them do is draw. There is no connection made between the marks and representation during most of the scribble stage. However, towards the end of this stage, children may begin to give marks name. This stage is mostly about the enjoyment of purely making marks. So a little thing that is mark up, become mommy and daddy, you know, that kind of thing. Right. Stage 2 is we know all of these things, right? Right. Anyway, just reinforcing.
Some people in the audience are not trained at
All right, so some people are not trained and teacher. So you see what we're talking about, where the mathematics teacher, who's a trained mathematics teacher, is asked to teach art in the primary school, which is a very critical stage where them developing. Listen to me, I'm not telling them to take the people them job. I'm just saying the process should include training the people to be there. Alright. Stage 2, pre-schematic, stage 3 to 4 years old. Children at this stage of artistic development are beginning to see connection between the shapes that they draw and the physical world around them. Circles and lines may be described as people or objects that are physically present in the child's life. And for those who can see. So this is an example. It is in this, alright, so I'm missing here. Alright, let me go to stage 3. Let's say the schematic stage, 5 to 6 years old. Children at this stage have clearly assigned shapes to objects that they are attempting to communicate. They often have developed a scheme for creating drawings. There's a defined order in the development of the drawing. Drawing at this stage have a clear separation between the sky and the ground. Often the sky is a strip of blue at the top of the paper, while the ground is a strip of green at the bottom. Objects are often placed on the ground instead of floating in space. Objects of importance are often drawn larger than objects of lesser importance. So the person when them draw, and if the head is bigger than it is, it's not because them don't know proportion, it's because it is important. So we now beat them and telling them can't draw that kind of thing. And then there's stage 4, drawing realism, 7 to 9 years old. At this stage in artistic development, children are beginning to become more critical of their own work. It has more evidence that a structure order to draw an object is no longer sufficient. Alright, so what I'm saying is that instead of drawing a stick man, them start to put some volume, some substance to that, and things start to take shape differently. We understand that. This is the example that they give. Alright, let's go to stage 5. What are we going to be discussing after this? The pseudo-naturalistic stage. So now them think to look the way them see it. And this is where I was teaching some children one time, and so we go in, it's a community thing, because I work in community, and then we say we go in there, we want them to express themselves. But then they start to rebel, them say they want to learn to draw. So we had no choice but to teach them to draw. Because they start to get older. Pseudo naturalistic stage, and this is from 10 to 13 years old. And the use of value and light is now apparent in drawing. Children at this stage of artistic development are very critical of their own success. Success is determined by the level of realism achieved in the drawing. Frustration is a common occurrence. It is exceptionally important to encourage children at this stage. That's when you start talk to them and say, you might do this, make it better, that kind of thing, because you understand value, and how you apply value better than they do, and you become their hero. Because now them drawings start to look like it should look. Some continue, but some then change direction. This is 6th stage, and decision stage, 13 to 16 years old. And children at this stage will decide to continue drawing or view it as an activity without merit because of the level of self-criticism inherent at this stage. Many children, now young adults, view drawing as a skill that they do not possess. So maybe that's when some of them decide, well, may I go to school, and some decide, well, may I go to track. Right. Others, however, decide to continue working on their drawing skills and continue to develop. I think that it is important to encourage students to continue drawing despite their level of skill. Any skill level can be attained with practice. So, yeah, so the question now about talent and that kind of thing. You have to have talent in art school. Me never think that was a particular talented person. You know, them used to take me out of one class to go draw something, the teacher, that kind. But I don't know that I was particularly talented. And since I'm there, maybe I want to blow my horn a little bit and tell my story, because me come from country, bush. Saturday morning, we used to have to go up and down the hill with the jump, the thing from my head, go full the jump kind of thing. So, me never know say art, you could have lived by art. Anyway, all I know I like to draw. I go to school, and then them call you out of the room because they recognize that you can draw, and you lift up your maths class and go draw. You know, so kind of thing. But then I did a test to go to the public health school that they had at the time. And me hide the result because I come to art school, because I got response on the art school at the time. So I come to art school, when me left country come to home, I never know I was sleep the night. But I come to art school. And I say that to say that the whole talent and work hard, skill kind of thing, me think me work hard, and that's take me to other places where you know enough bush, have high-rise building and all of that. So it's how it change your life too. So the people who you know decide that you're an artist, that you're not nothing, you know, well you know differently. I should know differently, and I hope you are encouraged. I work with the Multi-Care Foundation. And the Manley Foundation is a non-profit organization, not-for-profit. We work in communities and we work in inner-city communities and inner-city schools. So I'm the visual arts coordinator. So what I do, I go into the school, we do workshops. So the school say, all right, the teacher can't do basketry. Then me can't do basketry either, but because I can find somebody with a skill, we take them to the school, including material and that kind of thing. And we do it. Not everybody, right now we don't have the money, so we can't include enough other school. School like Holy Rosary, Greater Portmore, who else is in there? St. Michael's as well, who else? And a number of other schools probably in here now who we work with. So when you hear them talk about my passion for working in these communities, is as a matter of fact, me go to school and get a degree in community arts. I don't know if anybody decided to have that degree, and I don't know that you get enough money for having that degree, but I have that, and it allows me, you know, it trains me to go into these communities and do these things. We have an Art on the Street program right now at Gold Street Police Station, right on the street side. We go there every Saturday morning. The children come out and them work. And you know, one of the good things is that maybe it's a lunch still, but they come on a Saturday morning. And we know too, you know, them the good work. We just had an exhibition at the end of June, right on the street side. We pretty up the community, and they come out. And we talk about fundamental. These are some fundamental things that we are doing today. It's not necessarily pertains to the work that they produce, but the whole effort and the whole process important to. Because one of the things that one of the problems you have is how the people them relate to them one another, the back at them one another. You'd be surprised, and then you have to introduce some additional life skills to teach them to live, and it's through the art process that we're doing that. And those are fundamentals if we really want to get them interested. So what we do now, so the people who decide, okay, I am going to do art in CXC, we give them all the support we can give them. So I buy them all the materials that we can buy for them, and you know, that kind of thing. And we encourage other people to do that. So, all right. So we could put some things into context. The competition and fundamentals, the teachers. So we know that, I know everybody don't want the Virgin from Newell to win every year. So maybe what we need to do is to put some of the fundamentals into practice. And it's not because we don't want them to win still. Like, we have nothing against him. You understand what I'm saying? It's just that it's a big cake. And you know, and people want a slice. So in order to get your slice, employ the fundamentals better than he does, and we never know, next year or whenever you might be the person with a scholarship to Edna Manley and airline tickets and get some visa thing. So yeah, so what I'm just asking the teachers, go back to basics and look at the fundamentals. The teachers who are not trained and you still are expected to teach art and teach it well, and so that them, you know, can excel. Look at the basics. Google, go to Google and Google what are the fundamentals. And look at how you utilize them. Look at the meaning. So, you know, you can always, you know, in terms of critiquing the work, and critique might not even be such a good word, but for want of a better word, in terms of critiquing the work, in terms of instructing them, the fundamentals will guide you. You know, rules are made to be broken. And so, yes, the fundamentals are important, but identify when something unique comes out of whatever method that child might use, so that you can beat them up and them work can end up in the competition and them can win prizes, that kind of thing. At this stage, I think I've done 15 minutes. Alright, so make a talk now. So it is you who going to ask me some question, and just to take up some time. And so we can distill some of the challenges that we might have, because I have had so much experience. Yeah. No, you don't have to stand. You know, sometimes as teachers we feel like we know best, but sometimes there's a conversation that we need to have. What is happening in the one thing that I've seen, and at School of Art too, so you have a critique and they see your work look a certain way and they say, have you looked at this artist or research this artist? What about the student? What about their train of thought? Was it similar to the artist who did that? So it is really hearing them, and because you're more knowledgeable than them, you can always say to them, change, add, take away kind of thing, so that you can arrive at something that is pleasing to themselves. And again, you become their hero when you can do that.
If I could just add to that, I think that is also a question that is going to come up in the discussion, the panel discussion later, but to address it in the context of the fundamentals. I think one of the things that the teacher, a lot of teachers, not all teachers, but a lot of teachers don't appreciate is that the stage at which those children are, their imagination is running wild. Part of your role as a teacher is to help, not to stop their imagination flourishing, but how to focus it for the specific interest of doing something for itself. I think as a part of that process, I think what Stanford said is important. They present you with something and say, well, the man in the middle means this, and the bird in the sky means this.
There's no bird in it, just that one thing from the
well, and even if they take it, the things that I don't think enough art teachers have conversations with students. There is a tutorial element that is a necessary part of art education that I find a lot of art, especially some of the younger art teachers, don't want to do, or they probably were not cultured that way. Wherever you teach art to any type of student, whether that's a basic school student or a tertiary level student, conversation is important. Why did you put that there? What does that mean to you? What is the significance of that? If the students cannot answer that question, then clearly the student has to come again with what they have put down. But let me just wrap up the point because I don't want to take up the time. But even those who have a fairly good idea, take it as I tell you, that idea cannot go far if their fundamentals are not strong. And that is the thing that I think persons are missing in that whole process of trying to get the student to move from idea to image. You have to have a conversation. Within the conversation, you have to be assessing how logically sound or how coherent the idea the student is presenting. But equally, you have to also, by looking at the work that the child has been producing, figure out if the idea that the student has, can the student actually translate that into a visual image, given the skills that they have. The child is not good at applying pigment, there's going to be a problem. The child doesn't know to mix colors, but they want to create a purple, there's going to be a problem. The same thing that Stanford was saying, a lot of them have these images, especially when they're drawing images of dancehall artists and so on. That's when they're pushing to go realistic. But sometimes it is failing because they're not strong on perspective, they don't proportionality and things like that. They don't even know a fundamental as the different type of lines that you can use to get something to look near to life. And I think that's the balance that I think we have to, it's an ongoing thing and it will fluctuate over time. But in terms of the fundamental conversation that that's something that you have to look for.
Fundamental conversation and fundamentals of art. And as to the internet thing, because I know a lot of the children go for internet images, copied, but there's right. But we need to talk about plagiarism,
Plagiarism is a key.
and we need to talk about copyright infringements. But there is a word that appropriation, and no care how they make it sound, appropriation means a thief to some. Right, so appropriation is something that becomes appropriate. It's thieving. So if you appropriate something to get away with it, to give the person credit, that kind of thing. But then how does that help the imagination? We know that they cannot invent the wheel, or we shouldn't ask them to invent the wheel, so we're not saying that they can reference things. But we have to be careful that all their creation are not coming from other people's creation.
As we continue to unlock, we have another key person coming up, Sana Rose Savage. Sana is passionate about art, artists, art education, and the development of creative potential in people. She has spent 18 years in the art management field, where at different points during her tenure, she also straddled the preoccupations of art writing and her own art making. 14 years of her work as an arts manager has been spent in the service of the nation's artists at the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC, where she organizes competitions, curates exhibitions, and designs training for artists, among other responsibilities. She's a graduate of the Edomani College of the Visual and Performing Arts, where she majored in painting. She also holds a Master's of Art degree in Art Education from the Ohio State University, USA. Sana.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation and try to collect my thoughts and make it as clear as I can. So happy World Art Day, happy World Teachers Day rather. Yes, and it's really a pleasure for me to be here. I'm happy to be here. I think we're going to have to darken the room so you can see the slides. So my presentation is on the power of practice. So I have an audio clip that I just want you to hear first. So it just kind of gives us a little context and then we can move on. Audio, please.
Introduction. The last few decades have belonged to a certain kind of person with a certain kind of mind. Computer programmers who could crank code, lawyers who could craft contracts, MBAs who could crunch numbers. But the keys to the kingdom are changing hands. The future belongs to a very different kind of person with a very different kind of mind. Creators and empathizers, pattern recognizers and meaning makers. These people, artists, inventors, designers, storytellers, caregivers, consolers, big picture thinkers, will now reap society's richest rewards and share its greatest joys. This audiobook describes a seismic, though as yet undetected, shift now underway in much of the advanced world. We are moving from an economy and a society built on the logical, linear, computer-like capabilities of the information age to an economy and a society built on the inventive, empathic, big-picture capabilities of what's rising in its place, the conceptual age. A whole new mind is for anyone who wants to survive and thrive in this emerging world. People uneasy in their careers or dissatisfied with their lives, entrepreneurs and business leaders eager to stay ahead of the next wave, parents who want to equip their children for the future, and legions of emotionally astute and creatively adroit people whose distinctive abilities the information age has often overlooked and undervalued. In this audiobook, you will learn the 6 essential aptitudes, what I call the 6 senses, on which professional success and personal satisfaction increasingly will depend. Design, story, symphony, empathy, play, meaning. These are fundamentally human abilities that everyone can master, and helping you do that is my goal. A change of such magnitude is complex, but the argument at the heart of this book is simple. For nearly a century, Western society in general, and American society in particular, has been dominated by a form of thinking and an approach to life that is narrowly reductive and deeply analytical. Ours has been the age of the knowledge worker, the well-educated manipulator of information and deployer of expertise. But that is changing. Thanks to an array of forces, material abundance that is deepening our non-material yearnings, globalization that is shipping white-collar work overseas, and powerful technologies that are eliminating certain kinds of work altogether, we are entering a new age. It is an age animated by a different form of thinking and a new approach to life, one that prizes aptitudes that I call high concept and high touch. High concept involves the capacity to detect patterns and opportunities, to create artistic and emotional beauty, to craft a satisfying narrative, and to combine seemingly unrelated ideas into something new. High touch involves the ability to empathize with others, to understand the subtleties of human interaction, to find joy in one's life and to elicit it in others, and to stretch beyond the quotidian in pursuit of purpose and meaning.
Alright, so this man, Daniel Pink, he's kind of interested in behavioral science and he does a lot of research and books on why we do what we do. And so this book was about the age that we're in, how we've transitioned from the knowledge age, the information age, the digital age, into what he's calling the conceptual age. And when I consider that and the people he's describing who will thrive in that age, he's describing artists, creative people. But if we think of creativity a little wider than just the domain of artists, we want to think of people who are critical and creative thinkers. So because of certain things happening in the world, we notice that some jobs are disappearing because anything that can be easily replicated, either someone else can do it very cheaply or a robot is going to take over that job. And so what is left? What are the kinds of jobs that are left? It's the kinds of jobs that's going to require us to pull on our more humanistic skills which cannot be reduced to computer code. And so I believe that the artist, the art teacher, anybody who is in that creative realm is apt and prepared and ready for this age that we're in. Where am I pointing? Where do I point? All right, so he mentioned 6 aptitudes, and I'm just going to run through them. So he talked about design, and you can kind of just go through your head. Is this what artists do? Is this what creative people do? Is this what critical and creative thinkers do? So he's not just talking about does it do the job, he's also talking about design. And one of the persons that comes to mind for me is Steve Jobs. Even though he was making technological tools, he always said design was important, how it looked was important. So we're talking about form as well. So data, we're coming out of the information age. Data was very important, and everybody was valued for the amount of information they had in raw form. But now we're in the story age, where we're talking about a compelling narrative. And you can see that in how people, in how companies address their advertising. It's not just, here's my product, buy it. But there is a whole narrative that is being shared with people as they go through each day. Symphony, not just analysis, but synthesis, bringing different things together into a harmonious whole. Once you can decipher that, you're ahead of the pack. Understanding and care, something that maybe as a nation we're getting away from. Empathy, but that cannot be replicated by any robot, and maybe they'll try and write some code to fix that, but humans are what they are, and we just simply cannot replicate that. Humor, games, lightheartedness. Now, in my own experience as an artist, as a younger person, I used to have fun making art. And then when I got to art school, it became so serious. It was a serious business, you know. It was really, this is it, you have to. But guess what? Play is so important. And then as we grow older, we forget about that part of things. Playing. Purpose and fulfillment, meaning is becoming so critical now in even discussions about productivity and workplace productivity. People don't just want their paychecks. That's great. Everybody wants to be paid. But once you pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table, people now want to know, what am I contributing? What am I a part of? And so that becomes a critical factor. So we have a saying, practice makes. Well, some years ago, I said practice makes perfect, and a friend of mine said, no, practice makes permanent. So what if you are practicing the wrong thing? We always, when I used to hear practice makes perfect, I used to think, well, yeah, practice the right thing. But what if it's the wrong thing? You've veered off track, gone way off. And so we would need to consider how these things happen. And I'm thinking that repetition ingrains things in us and forms habits. And so that becomes how we do things over time. So the practice of artists versus teachers. In my experience at JCDC, I have come across a very, very strange phenomenon. I didn't even think, it was kind of shocking to me. I've met teachers who just see themselves as teachers, and then there are people who are artists. These are art teachers, but somehow separating art from teaching. And so I want to dig a little deeper into that. Let me just ask you now, should there be a difference in an art teacher? Should an artist should a teacher be an artist? We know that artists don't have to teach, but should it be the other way around? Talk to me now.
I think there's a different way how to approach it. I think not all artists would be good teachers, even though they probably can impart information, but not necessarily organize an instructional approach and environment and so on. And I don't know if all teachers are appropriate to teach art, because apart from being able to organize the environment and a lesson and so forth, there's a sixth sense that you have to have when looking and assessing work. It can't just be that, okay, the child has creative visual balance, or a student has creative visual. You have to have that eye, that palette, that taste, to pick up that extra thing. And pick up when to just totally switch something to pull things out of students. And I don't think all people who have been trained to teach and even teach art are capable of doing it. It's trying to find it.
So you're talking a little bit about a kind of artistic sensibility.
Yes.
Like a sixth sense in a sense.
But we call it a sixth sense. Actually, is understanding what you're looking at and be able to break it down, analyze it and break it down and make it simple that somebody else can share the information. Artists just call it sixth sense because they don't know what it is. They just know that they are able to draw a face, draw and analyze the color and see for what it is and put it down, or use another color to replicate what they saw in a more creative manner. But they don't know what to tell you about that. A good example of that is maybe in color at Enaman. But yet since when I went to school, when I started teaching at pencil, and I started breaking down color and talking to my students about color, that I understand what the thing was. And basically looking at the color wheel and analyzing the color wheel, understand that the color wheel was actually a tool. And that basically if I teach my students that they won't forget the thing. But when you teach them, draw a color wheel, they put the color all over the place. But when you teach them the purpose behind the color wheel and how the color wheel came together, then they don't forget it. But many artists understand the color, but don't understand what it was or how you get it.
But I want to make a distinction between technical knowledge and competitiveness, the technical knowledge versus being able to pick up when our work is making a particular impact. They are related, they are very close, but there are slight distinction, and that is the sixth sense that I'm talking of. To know, like for example, I can't stop looking at that color. I just can't stop looking at it. And the others look really nice, and the others are pretty well balanced, but that one and that one just have additional quality that I don't think somebody who does not have that palette for art would probably pick up.
You want to finish?
No, it's just an feedback for enough. We were marking somewhere, and there was this bad work that wouldn't go past.
For want of a better term. Yes.
But it was the only piece of hard work in the room. Yes, yes. If I'm going to say visual impact and all of that, I'm going to walk away with that so-called technically bad piece of work. But we know as artists that that part is just the one that push the limits and just came up with something that stood out, right? So
that's what I'm talking.
Yes.
Mr. Watson.
Yes, I'm not really talking about what kind of article is that teacher. An artist is supposed to come and practice. A teacher learn the values of art and be able to teach fundamentals, for instance. So that could be different people. You might have artists who attempt to teach. You might have artists who attempt to teach, and you might have teachers who call themselves artists, and might be artists only because they practice. But they are two different things and don't necessarily have to be, you know, there should be no confusion there.
All right, gentlemen at the back.
So what's the base of the point I was going to say? So what's the base of the point that I was going to say? But I want to add something. The color wheel for me is not bad. Because I have a friend who would go have a bone. Probably most of can just sharp my crayon. But he's into computer and graphics, and he can write a code to create a color wheel and print a printing. As well as I can teach someone to mix paint. Mixing paint don't make you an artist. Nice sense. So so this is, and I can put the thing together. So I tell people I don't teach art. I facilitate development. Because guess what? At the end of the day, if I am compelled to say, well, market, there are some right and some wrong to do things. Not even a part of. But if I'm compelled to say that this is a good work, versus that is a good work, I can say this is a good work and I can bring all the rules and all the things that make up why it's a good work. But then, how do I don't judge the expressive part of it? How do I say to that you know, I just don't give this last point. You know, I years ago, I was faced with something. I decided to draw cartoon character. Let me say it at Manley. And I decided to put 4 fingers instead of 5 fingers, and I was challenged by a lecturer. And I said I want 4 fingers, and he insisted on 5 fingers, and I said I want 4 fingers. And I walked away with my 4 fingers. Just put that in there, just think about it for a while. Because it's 25 minutes, I said 4 fingers. And I didn't want the hand to be, it's not no empty finger, I wanted 4 fingers on the hand. I was told that no, I said I want 4 fingers. Just think about it for a while.
Here, just one last point. You wanted to say something? Okay, so I think we touched on the mechanics versus that sixth sense that we can't quite quantify. Somebody else?
I think we should also bear in mind that context is always important when you practice. If you're at an institution that is giving a certificate or some sort of accreditation, and you're looking for particular things for a standard, that's different from if you want to express yourself and try to experiment and come up with something new. And I think even at Endamani there's always a tension because it's supposed to be a place to foster creativity. But again, they are like trying to balance between can we give this person a mark for what we're looking for, what the ministry is looking for, versus, oh, this kind of look nice and it would be interesting. You get what I'm saying? So context is always important as it overshadows practice.
All right, thank you so much, all of you. So, I found this gentleman, he talks a lot about leadership, mainly in the workplace, but I think it's apt here. Very few people or companies can clearly articulate why they do what they do. By why I mean your purpose, cause, or belief. Why does your company exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning, and why should anyone care? And if we're thinking of the anyone as students, as teachers, why are we getting out of bed? What is our purpose, cause, or belief? Why are we teachers? So in essence, what he's saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So yes, we know you carry the label of a teacher, but how do you actually function? What are the values that are dictating what you do and how you do it? So our job versus our work. I've been kind of assessing my own job versus work dynamic and trying to figure out what it is that is keeping me in what I'm doing. So we know what the job of an art teacher is, we know what the job of a teacher is, but your work is something else. Anybody wanna just talk to us about what the difference is? Go ahead, please.
Basically, a job for me in 9 to 5, while your work is
what you like putting emotional into what you want. It's not necessarily doing it for the sake of what you want. So it's basically your, how do you say,
Yeah, so it's more like, yeah, I think you're hitting on purpose. Anybody disagrees with that?
Yeah, just want to give an additional example. The job is that you're supposed to manage these set of students at class at a certain age, make sure that you have to develop exams. But the work is like when you see these really talented students, and after work hours are done, you stay back with that student. Or if that student, you're not seeing them come to class for a while, and when you check up on them, boy, I can't come to school because they want to have can't give me a lunch money. Go in their pocket and give the child the money to make sure. That is how much more of the calling is.
That's a good word. I like that word. Gentleman at the back.
Just to add to what my friend said a while ago, your job is what you're paid to do, your 9 to 5. But somebody once said, love what you do and you will not work a day in your life. So basically, your work is more of the affective, the emotions, whatever you put in there. Sometimes, because I get this, especially from my grade 7 students, sir, we can't draw. That's like the proverbial statement I hear for the last 16 years now. And it's a joy to see those who say they can't draw by 9th grade or 8th grade or even by the end of the 7th grade doing much better. And even going on to, pass their CXC. So it's more the affective, your work is more the affective, it's more what you put in, it's more the emotions. And it's more fulfilling to see a transformation at the end of the day.
Alright, thanks for that. So I heard calling, I heard fulfillment. I think we can wrap that up into a nice package. Purpose. That's the thing that's getting you up in the morning, but we know. Yes, mission is a great word actually. Yeah, so definitely. So the things I would like to suggest that are helping to shape what our work is, and I'd like to suggest that there is power in our practice. Now, it's either you're doing the set of things that is meeting your goals, which we hope is molding young minds, and we want to think of it broader than just exams, tests. I mean, high stakes testing, I feel, just gives you a snapshot in a moment, but you've had all of this time and experience interacting with these young people. What do you impart in that? What is the connection? What is the exchange that takes place? Is it just for a grade, or is it something that will help that student move on and be able to live in the world that we're living in? And so that's ultimately what I want to look at. So it's more an introspection from the teacher's side. What are you communicating through your teaching? I've met teachers who don't like to draw, and so they don't. I've met teachers who, if they have students who don't do a particular expressive form, they kind of just shy away from it. Some people might bring in somebody, a resource person to help, but we're so afraid of not exposing what we consider our weaknesses or challenges that we shy away from all of that. But we're also sending out messages each time we do it. And then we talk also about what are the things we're telling ourselves. I've heard some very traumatic stories about art classes that people carry with them, sometimes from primary school. Now they're big people teaching other students, and I can even tell you, even the JCDC competition seems to be quite a traumatic event. People have had some bad experiences and they just simply don't even encourage the students to participate. And I'm not just saying that because of some self-interest for JCDC. I mean, just as an avenue to get them to express themselves, win prizes, whatever. You know, these things can come with so much opportunities, which Miss Morrison pointed to for the AAJ competition. And I just want to say that those experiences stick up here, and then it filters down into here. And then it comes out in how we teach and how we interact with these young people. I've seen a lot of it. I had some traumatic events, not at primary level, tertiary level. And every time I talk about it, I feel the emotion just well up from the toe, come right up. And you have to be aware of it. So the thing to do is not to run away from it, but to stand up, address it, accept it for what it is, and deal with it, because these students are going through a lot of emotional turmoil too. They're transitioning in their biological development, and then we're asking them to go do this test, which could determine their future. That's how heavy the weight of it is. And so what is it that we're telling ourselves? Some of us are telling ourselves that we're not artists. And we communicate these messages in how we teach. We're also telling people, these young people, that teachers don't make any money. We're telling them that art is a dead-end thing. We're not producing any art ourselves. Sometimes it is the unspoken things that we're communicating is the thing that sticks. So, you know that thing where your parents used to say, do what I say, what not as I do? The not as I do part is the part that tends to stick. And so, what are we telling ourselves about ourselves? And as a result, communicating to others. That's coming out in our actions, in our classrooms. So we come back to Simon Sinek again, and I want to kind of look at the teacher as a leader. We're drawn to leaders and organizations that are good at communicating what they believe. And we understand that whether that is a positive or a negative belief, we're going to communicate something. But what we're looking for is a positive communication, a kind of positive vibration. Their ability to make us feel like we belong, to make us feel special, safe, and not alone is part of what gives them the ability to inspire us. Now, when we come back to what Daniel Pink was saying in terms of the 6 aptitudes, you can't replicate that in some kind of formula. Those are skills and maybe that emotional side of people that they're going to carry into the classroom. The ministry will give you a curriculum, but it certainly can't dictate all of that. You're going to bring all of that with you. And so we're looking at how are we, what is the inspiration that we're sending out, and how are we inspiring these young people. So these, we come back to the 6, my apologies, our life or practice. So I want us to just consider that what we're living is what we're teaching. So if we're not practicing any art, it's going to be very hard for a teacher to come, to a student to come to us and say, boy, miss, I struggle with this. Boy, sir, I struggle with it. We don't even know what the creative process is like. So we can't even empathize, which is one of the important aptitudes here. We can't even share our experiences. So we need to also be physically doing it. But so we have practice as verb, practice as noun, or teaching, noun, and our art making, verb. You want to say something?
The point you raise is the point. If you are not doing it, and I mean, if you're not practicing art, if you're not drawing, you can't, you don't feel like you're teaching about that. If you're not making the work, you can't inspire anybody to do it. You have to be doing something. And I find that for myself, personally, maybe I'm an isolated case, but when I am studying, I have more to give to my students. If I am drawing, I can easily inspire them to draw. When they work, I work. I set up my thing, I do my right in the classroom, I am right beside them doing their work, I'm talking to them, they're looking at my work, I'm looking at theirs. That is how I impart to them. I first have to do it. And when I try to give them an assignment that I have not done, it don't get done. I can't even bring them through the whole realm because I have not gone through it myself. So basically you have to go through it. To do it for yourself first, then you can inspire your children. You can't send them somewhere where you have not gone.
Yes?
I totally agree with him, but there is a challenge that I have because I teach. Be careful of the term I'm going to use. They are not diagnosed as special, but their behaviors are special. And I totally agree with him that when you work while they're working, it inspires them. It inspires them, but here's the funny thing though. With their behavioral challenges, you have to be on your feet. You can't even you want to be in the work, you don't want to be in the drawing, the paper mache, you want to be working with them to inspire them. And they can come and look. But with the behavioral challenges where some running in and out of class, somebody trying to cut somebody doing some foolishness. And what it does, it throws you off because you want to get into the art and get into what you're doing. And you have to deal with disciplinary issues.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that somebody from the ministry is here. Because maybe if some of our special students could get the special nurturing that they need, the smaller class size, the labs, this, that, whatever we need to, what we need to help them know. I'd love if we could get it, so that the realities can be realized.
Alright, great point.
Alright, Paul had said something earlier that he might be unique.
One of the things I have a problem with, one of the things that affect my teaching, and I can say that, as art teacher, I'm one of the strictest person on campus. Like everybody else in the art department, because the students at high school level tend to take, when they're just coming in, take art for granted. It's something they do on the side. And the parents as well encourage it, and it is discouraging for us. And being that type of personality on campus, we are given other responsibilities. And many times our other responsibility pull us away from what we really want to do, which is to teach art. So sometimes I had to take a step back sometime last year and look at what I was doing in the classroom. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And so I have to find a way, how can I do my other thing? How can I do my job and still want to do my work?
Yes.
You understand? So some of us here are saying, yeah, but it's your job. It's your job to go do that duty or that duty and go to class on time, but when it is time to do the work, sometimes you have nothing left. You have to dig a little deeper.
Yeah. Mr. Watson.
To say.
One time, my daughter wrote an essay when she was in prep school, and I was her hero, and it was quite flattering. Down the road, she said she wanted to be an art teacher. I was an art teacher. That too was flattering. But then further down the road, she don't want me to teach her art because she don't want to work like me. Because my work is not the usual thing. And I have been teaching people all this while. And I know that none of them work like me. But I am just saying that as a teacher, I know what to teach, how to teach, what to expect, that kind of thing. But we don't necessarily do the same thing. I do my thing, and whereas working to inspire them, because I never work, the only time they see my work is when it's on in a garage, that kind of thing. But I know that when I go there, the expectation I have of them, what I want out of them, and so that's what I'm trying to get out of them, and not necessarily to work like me. And work like me, I'm talking about what the work looks like, as opposed to the time you spend in there. So, I mean, it's to agree and not to agree so much that you have to be, well, if you want to see that way. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, lady at the back spoke about
the realities of teaching. And I'm from the administrative side of art, and it's the same thing. I hate writing reports. I mean, like, we can't even explain why I don't like it. I just don't like to it. And my fellow creative colleagues, I thought I was just wayward and just, you know, the bad one. They struggle with it as well. And the fact is that we are called upon to, you know, mark the register, write the reports and all of these things. But at the same time, I find that when I don't have a creative outlet, you can't work with me. Like, my social skills just go down. Miserable, terrible. And so I want to bring us to the point of self-care. Now, we know it's hard. Sometimes some persons work in schools where they don't have administrative support. You almost feel like you are alone. I've met people like that, and then I've met people who have principals and supportive administration. They come into the AAJ competition and, yeah man, the bus have to gas up because we have to go. But that doesn't always happen. We have to take care of ourselves also. Somehow we have to prioritize that, because I find that we can only give what we have. And if we keep taking out of the tank, giving. I met a young man last year. He entered the JCDC competition, and for some reason I was in touch with him, and he came to submit his work. And he's a teacher, a young guy, great potential. And he said, boy, I just want to give up, I'm just tired. He's just under so much pressure. And the fact is that these things do happen, but we have to find a way. In all of that thing that he was struggling with, he still found time to do some artwork. Out of it, he won, I think he won a medal out of it. That's like a little cherry on top, but the point is that he found some time for his own expression. And we know how miserable artists can be. We're kind of hard to work with sometimes. So we have to do that self-care part. Whatever it is you need to do, stop carrying on work. I am one of those persons who did that for years. It was this automatic thing. Weekend, night, but practically sleep at the place because, wow, we just feel so inspired and everything. And after a while, I started to crash. About 5 years ago, I just started to just lose physical abilities, I couldn't even think. And I'm still kind of reeling from all of that, and I'm saying to us, in order to give to these people, these young people, the people who are going to take care of us when we're old. So if we contextualize that, we have to give them the best of us, and in order to do that, we must first give ourselves the best. When we're in an airplane, what do they say? The safety procedure. Put on your mask first. You can't help anybody if you can't breathe. So we have to find a way for the people who find themselves teaching art but don't have a teaching background. Don't make the word art stress you out. What is the creative outlet that you have? I know at my workplace, I feel like people are there because you can do accounting anywhere. You can go and do event production at different kinds of places, but people find themselves in this creative place. And then when I start doing a little survey, some people used to sing. Some people sing with them church choir, some people sew, some people do something. So they find themselves in this creative space. And maybe if you did the same survey, you'd find the same thing at National Gallery. Because some of these jobs can be replicated elsewhere. You can do it elsewhere, but you find yourself in this creative space. You have a kinship with it, but you're not nurturing yourself in the process. And so I just want to make that point, that before we crash out and burn out, let us find some time, whatever it is. It don't have to be drawing and painting. It can be baking. It can be something. or go out in nature, something. You have a final point?
Yes. Thinking about, when you stand in a class, I am sometimes late at school and I get letters for that. But I have no problem with that, because if you understand why I'm late, you see, one of the things that I understand about my school, they are special. They're very special. And they draw energy. And I don't know if you notice that when you walk into a school, on a school compound, if you are a teacher, that you leave with all of this energy, and by the time you reach in a classroom, you feel tired, and you wonder what is happening. Because they're pulling energy from you. You have to be a parent now for 40 picnic. And when you are supposed to teach the lesson, when you are to teach the lesson, even before you do that, you have to deal with so much emotional baggage and so that's coming from the students. That if you are not prepared for that physical, and the thing is, they know. They know.
They know when you're at your weakest point.
They know, and they come at you.
Yes.
And you react to them in that manner. And I'm saying, a lot of teachers don't even understand what is happening to them. Right? And even administrators don't understand it. And that is why we are losing some of our teachers. They're literally dropping dead.
Yes.
And don't understand that this is because of how you're taking care of yourself. And a simple act like drinking water.
Yes. So it's not just go out in nature, but it's also sleep.
No, that is a part of it.
How we eat. Sometimes when you get in the quote-unquote zone, you just work and you just driven. Several hours go by, you have not eaten. Like, you can't do that consistently every day. When I was in art school, I could have bleached like, wow. Yeah. Can't do that again. Like, I do that 3 days and totally pop right down. Like, we have to nourish ourselves and our minds as well. Like, you have to be careful what you're taking in. I was started following a lot of, when I was going through my little breakdown there, I started following a lot of people and kind of checking out what people are saying. And some of these very productive, wealthy people kept saying, stop listening to the news. And if you can, avoid all meetings. Because those things just draw and suck down your energy. I find that when I haven't been listening to the news at all, but somehow somebody will tell you what is happening. I started to suffer from what they call decision fatigue. Just the simplest things just seemed like it was just bearing down on me, because everything just felt like it was just tumbling down. Even just getting dressed in the morning was a stress, was mega weird. And that wasn't even the most important decision I had to make for the day. I used to wear locks. Still love people with locks and much respect to them. But you see, the moment I chop off that hair, I save myself 45 minutes in the morning. I mean, it is the most stress-free thing now. So just the simple things. Sometimes it's nothing grand, just consider your routine. What are you doing? Some of the things, sometimes it's just drinking water. Sometimes it's when you think you're hungry, you're thirsty. Just little things. Take care of yourself. So we go on. So I like the concept of the artist teacher. I like the person who is doing what they are teaching. But as we talk about filling up the tank, making sure that your tank is full. And so I want to look at creativity as a life skill. Now, some of these students that we're teaching are not going to become artists. And some of them may later on just forget probably about 95-98% of the things they learned. But later on, because of their interaction with you, maybe the parent who takes their child to a museum, maybe the person who starts collecting art, maybe the person who even starts going to concerts and all of that kind of thing, and getting that affective side taken care of. And so we want to look at it more as how do we survive in this world? Because this is the age of creativity. If what you do can be easily replicated, you are going to be out of a job, your paycheck gone. What do you have that is left that cannot be replicated? And so I might have a favorite teacher, like my grade 1 teacher is my own. This is like donkey years ago, and I still remember this lady. And some of us, I'm sure you can identify with your favorite teacher, that experience. We know so we did have some terrible experiences with some teachers, but we also remember the good things. What is that interaction going to be that leaves that child with that good memory, where we can foster art appreciation? Maybe they don't become artists, but certainly they think twice before they punch somebody in the face. You know, there is power in the act of being a teacher. And we can look at teaching not just as a degree type of activity, but anything where you're taking the time out to teach somebody something, to take them through the rudiments of something, and then you see them take off like the planes that are here, and you go, wow. You know? Just the high that you get from that, the fulfillment that you get from that. And so I'm saying, nurture that. That is your power. So how can we keep nurturing that kind of practice? I found this lady, Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Everybody know that book? Yeah, but there is a movie. So she wrote this book called Big Magic, and it's about creativity. And I always come back to my art school experience because it was such a pivotal moment in my life. And creativity was such a big, heavy, weighty word. Like when I left art school, and you see the people used to go to school with him. If I see him anywhere, go to an exhibition and see him, and first question, you paint? And you feel so guilty because you're not doing this thing, and it's creativity. Oh, if you go to school 4 years and you not do nothing. Let us take away that big word. One of the things that Elizabeth Gilbert talked about was how she used to be this kind of fundamentalist preacher about passion. People say follow your passion, and normally they talk to artists, art is my passion. Why are you not doing it then, if it's so much your passion? So she said one day she went, had a talk, a preacher, fundamentalist thing. Yes, passion, 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 passion. Because from she wanted to do writing, and she has always been a writer, and so she knew that. And once you have a passion, you know that you're following it. And someone contacted her and said, boy, my life has not really panned out that way. I've gone through several years where I'm just going from one thing to one thing to one thing. And then people keep telling me, follow your passion, but I just don't feel like there's any one thing that I just feel so wonderful about, and I just want to spend the whole of my life doing it. And when she started to really look into it, she said, wow, lady's telling her that, boy, I feel like a failure because I have a passion. And then she thought, how many people am I doing this to? And then she started to maybe do a little research. We would consider how this idea of passion, and it turns out quite a few people are saying follow your passion can really be a meaningless piece of advice. Because if you already have a passion, you're following it, but when you don't, how do you cultivate that? Nobody can really explain that. And so she's using a word that I find a little less high stakes, a little less pressuring, and she's using the word curiosity. So for our friends in here who might feel, boy, I mean, I really paint, I mean, I really draw, what I really do? Is there anything that you have the slightest bit of curiosity in? Do I just love my plants outside? That is a creative venture right there, you know. What is it that you're curious about? And it comes back to Picasso once said everybody is born an artist, but it's how every child is an artist, how to remain that way. Sometimes we lose our way in that whole dynamic. Can we return to the time when we were curious? We just wanted to know, what is this, what is that? You watch Little Pitney, them just want to touch everything, them want to taste it, them want to feel how it feel. Can we return to that? Can we bring that back into our lives so we can enrich that thing, our practice, our work? Trust. Sometimes you have to trust the process. Mr. Watson talked about the fundamentals of art, and he also said, hey, you know, these rules can be broken. Sometimes we want the step by step, this is how you make a painting. And I struggle with that with artists in trying to run a competition where people say, boy, oh, you really just get a gold medal. There really isn't like a set of criteria that I can just write down and say, if you do this, you are guaranteed a gold. The fact is that sometimes you have to let go. I am a perfectionist. I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I thought it was a strength. I thought it was a strength. It turns out it is not. It stops you from doing so many things. I mean, everything of it perfect. I mean, I plan down to the T now. You see, the moment it starts going haywire, it's like my head is going to split open. Sometimes we have to trust. Just follow that little curious thing. What am I interested in? Little tiny little thing, never look like nothing, can turn into a big thing. Elizabeth Gilbert gives an example where she had moved and she had a book in mind before, but some life events had interrupted all of that, and she just kind of lost the vibe for the book. And so she was wondering, what am I going to do now? And she moved and everything, and then she starts looking outside and seeing her garden and say, well, I could just plant some plants in the meantime, you know. And then she starts planting, starts getting interested in what are these plants in her garden, starts researching, and lo and behold, it turns into a book. So that's how powerful curiosity can be. And then we come to engagement. Now we are giving engagement, but we also need to engage ourselves. How are we communicating with ourselves? How are we nurturing ourselves? What is it that we're doing to make sure our creativity is still alive? So don't let me lose you, alright? We'll soon finish. So we come back to Daniel Pink, high concept, high touch world. So thinking, touching, so expression, feeling, all of that, and the whole mind and how it works. This is what the person in a high concept, high touch environment needs to be able to do. To detect patterns and opportunities, create artistic and emotional beauty, craft a satisfying narrative, combine seemingly unrelated ideas into something new. Some of these things sound kind of airy-fairy, but the thing is, artists do that all the time. Things don't look related, and we put them together in a piece of artwork, and we bring two issues together that might seem unrelated, and we challenge people to challenge their beliefs. We talk about artistic and emotional beauty. It don't necessarily, when we talk about beauty in art, we don't mean everything look pretty, but certainly well made. For one thing, we want to make sure our skills are of such that we can make things well, but we also want to shed light on what is beautiful. There's so much ugly things out there. How can we do that? Craft a satisfying narrative. I want to advance that our life is our narrative, and so how we're living it is how we're going to be doing our work. So first, let us deal with our narrative, and then we can help our students to craft theirs, however short the interaction might be. And combine seemingly unrelated ideas into something new. I touched on that earlier. We all understand what that means. So what is the power of our practice? Essentially, it's us, who we are as people. You are the first important dynamic, I believe, in a classroom or in any kind of teaching setting. The teacher sets the tone. To this very day, I have a terrible relationship with mathematics. And I can tell you exactly when I was called up in front of the entire class to go work out the maths problem on the board, and I was shaking like a leaf. Maybe. And then she said, she realized that I couldn't do it. And then she just said, go sit down. You know, like, you know, just go sit down. And to this very day, I have this terrible relationship with mathematics, and people have the same kind of experience with art. People have had some terrible, terrible stories about art. So there are teachers out there who are causing people to think so negatively about the thing, and we could have just given them a good experience, a good memory, but we didn't. So let us consider how we can shape our practice in a way that is good. So what we think and value are reinforced through our actions, and we touched that earlier. So Simon Sinek says, there are only two ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate it, and we see how our country is approaching the crime thing. Is it really going down if you build more prisons? I don't really know. Why not try to inspire it? And I can't think of anybody better to inspire people than a teacher. How is your practice engaging the next generation? Thank you very much for your time.
Dwayne is a graduate of the St. Joseph Teachers College, where he completed studies in primary education. His professional interests are located in the fields of culture, education, communication, and the arts, and he generally recreates with cooking, hobbies, and entertaining conversation. At present, he's employed at the National Gallery of Jamaica, where, as a curatorial assistant, he organizes and conducts tours, assists with research, documentation, and the development of educational programs. During the period 2010 to 2017, Dwayne taught an art class which formed part of the gallery's Saturday Art Time program. Within these classes, which he taught to children 8 to 11 years old, Uncle Dwayne, as he's affectionately called, instructed his students in the use of various picture making and sculpture making techniques. In addition to his centric sessions, he also facilitated activities which help the students to critically view, think, and talk about their work and a variety of works in the collection of the National Gallery of Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen.
Let me just get the formalities out of the way. Good afternoon to members of the AAJ Art Committee. Ms. Grace Morrison, Marketing and Corporate Communication Manager of the Airports Authority of Jamaica, colleagues in education and the visual arts, as well as associates and Cumbolas. In Jamaica, Cumbola mean friends. Alright, as you have already noted on the flyer for this event, and you're now seeing on the projector, on the projection, my topic for today is printmaking with found objects, unlocking the instructional potential. Now, I just want to quickly sort of get at why did I choose this topic. When Ms. Morrison called me to say that they would like me to do a presentation, she actually gave me the opportunity to tell her what I wanted to present her. And because I heard the word unlock, unlocking creativity and whatever, my mind quickly went back to a couple of experiences that I've had. I've had the privilege of judging a number of art competitions all over the island, primarily as it relates to children's work, because that's my specialty. And just going to different schools and interacting with teachers who come to the gallery. And I found out that there's always this emphasis on drawing and painting. Over time, my own preferred discipline, collage, has crept in. Thank you. But even then, it has sort of become fairly mundane. That's why I couldn't stop looking at these pieces, which are, I think, a refreshing approach to the topic. most people are doing collage now are using the same shapes to create a same house, same looking house, same type of looking children running or in a car or something like that. And if you're not careful, the children might get bored with collage. But one of the things that I noticed is that you don't often see a lot of printmaking. I find that a lot of prep schools will explore and experiment with printmaking. But the wider population of schools, even at the high school level, when I go to the junior center art competition, you don't even see a lot of printmaking. There's still this emphasis on drawing and painting. And I felt, and I've interacted with teachers and asked them why. And I mean, first and foremost, some people will tell me straight up that they're not art teachers. So they don't feel they're confident enough to address and deal with something like that. Secondly, persons who have gone and studied to be teachers, either at the primary level or the high school level, will say, yes, I did printmaking at college, but I'm not that good at it, so I don't really teach it. Then you have the other people who say, yeah, man, I know about printmaking, and they can explain the terminology, they can tell you the tools and materials that you can use to produce it, but they don't want to teach it. You know, they just feel like, you know, they feel it's too costly to do, and that is sort of their main emphasis. Oh, if I want to do it how I want to do it, it's going to cost, and when I approach the principal said they're not going to give me that money to buy the linoleum and so forth. And I've always sort of engaged them with the idea that, well, you could use found objects to basically bridge that gap in terms of the perceived cost. I often joke with people that if you look at the history of printmaking over the years, people didn't have linoleum and things like that, and brailles and so forth, when people started to experiment with and explore printmaking. Printmaking was something that was pretty very elemental in the early stages. So with my presentation today, I'm hoping to address some of those issues, and it's more of a workshop and demonstration than a presentation. What I want to do is just really frame the ideas that I want to inculcate or to engage with while we practice. Because this workshop is not about how to use found objects, just take them up and how to use them. It's really about how to use found objects in an instructional context, hence the unlocking the instructional potential. So what I'm going to do is skip some of what I had. What did I push? Okay. So I had wanted to talk a little bit about. Alright, yeah, I had wanted to talk a little bit about the instructional framework that I wanted to use for us to practice, but I'll address that at another time. So what I want to do is just get straight into looking at the importance of found objects to the visual arts teacher. Now, how I structured the presentation / demonstration is that it can appeal to people who don't have any art training or have limited art training, persons who teach at different levels of the school system, and people who teach in different instructional contexts. So, before I started working at the gallery, one of the instructional contexts that I used to work in was with Multicare, that Art on the Street program at Wall Street. I used to just teach an attire. And it was an important and interesting challenge for me because it helped me to stretch myself and come up with particular ideas in terms of how to keep the children interested. When I left from Multicare and the Art on the Street programs, I went to the gallery. I was in a building. I had a lot of resources to my using, but yet still there were certain limitations in terms of not getting paint on the wall, keeping the children away from the artwork, etc. And then I have taught in a school setting. I've taught at a junior high, and then I had a room and tables and all different type of things in the room that I could use to produce work. So the context that you operate into can determine, I want to show the applicability, I should say, of found objects. So the first thing I want to point out is that found objects, one of the first things that you can advocate for with it is that it adds to the material resources without adding too much to the budget. Alright? And I think there should be a definition. Alright, good. So I'm not going to give a quote-unquote dictionary definition. I'm just going to give a simple working definition. So, and I've done it in a way that it can appeal to the different age groups. So the first one, you can basically set to little children in the basic school level. The other one, probably upper part of the primary level. And the third one, to a set of high school students. So essentially, a found object is anything that we can use, anything that we use every day to do something, but can be used at another time to make an artwork. Alright? The second one, as I said, could be used at the primary level or the upper primary level. Any natural or man-made thing that is looked for by anyone, and I didn't want to just use artists alone, so that they can use it to make an artwork. Alright? Third one, much more for the high school level. Any natural or man-made object that is sought after by anyone, especially artists, in order for it to be repurposed and used to make an artwork. And that's a key thing with found objects. Just collecting something and probably just using it back as how it was is not so much a found object. A found object is how the artist repurposes the work in the context of making either a picture or a three-dimensional object. So the repurposing is the key. It's very artist-directed, the utilization of what was collected / found. Alright? The thing that I also point out too, and I'll make a greater distinction in the next slide, is that not all found objects are man-made. And I find that a lot of people end up using a lot of paper or, to some extent, fabric, styrofoam. But you can also incorporate dirt, stones, seeds, and so forth as a part of your found object practice. Alright, can you go down to the next slide for me? So, a gallery or a landfill. With that in mind, not all pieces made with found objects can be called junk art, as many are made from items found in nature or bought in a store and repurposed. So a lot of people, again, a lot of teachers, when you talk to them, they feel like, oh, I have to go through the garbage pan and find something. But you can actually collect things, and you can actually buy things that you would not necessarily find in an art store or would readily come to mind to be used in art. But again, the repurposing is the key activity that you, with your students, would be doing here. Next slide. Alright, so before we even get to the importance, another key thing, which is a much more practical and logical thing that has to be addressed, is the preparing to use the found objects. I always said to person, I remember doing a sort of talk on this some time ago. Well, there was a discussion first, then a talk. And one of the things that I said to persons is that when you're going to use found objects, you have to kind of establish categories which will help you to collect or store stuff. So you can divide things into man-made or natural. You can just collect based on a particular material category, whether that be metals, seeds, fabric, etc. And that helps you to kind of clarify and keep abreast of what you have in your collection. Alright? The next thing is to note the dimension of the objects that you're collecting. And that has a very, very practical application. Because if you look at the third thing in the preparation is that you have to acquire storage space and or containers. So if you are collecting a lot of styrofoam plates and cups and stuff like that, you know that you probably have to store them in a box. And you probably can't store them in a certain type of drawer. And so forth. The next thing is to make them clean and check for toxicity. That's another thing that people, I think, overlook. Today we're going to be working with leaves, and depending on the age group of the students, I sometimes will carry them out. So I have done, at the gallery we've done it about 2 or 3 times. I used to teach the 8 to 11-year-old students. And what I would do is carry them out into the car park. And near to the car park, there's like a little garden area, a park area. And there are a couple of trees here. Well, there's one fruit tree, but boy, it can't bear with the amount of time the children knock off the mangoes. But there are other trees which are really shade trees. And one of the shade trees that we have are almond, the almond tree. And then we have another one which is sort of related to the poor man's orchid. But there are other like shrubs that I sometimes use. And when I used to work with Multicare, one of the things that I used to love when we were working in Parade Gardens was that there is a part of the building that has this whole bunch of wild callaloo. Wild callaloo give you some of the best prints you will ever get in your life because of the amount of veins in the leaf. But there are other shrubs there, both in the UDC car park, or in that park, and at Parade Gardens, that if you cut them, they have a lot of stain, they carry a lot of insects, and stuff like that. And you have to make the students aware that before we're looking for one particular thing or two particular things, whether that be stones or leaves or whatsoever, and check them before you take them up and put them in your hand. Also too, if you buy certain things, you have to look if it's child friendly, because some things may be hazardous to people, whether they have allergies and things like that. And because you're doing it in a school context mostly, there are liability issues if the child gets sick and you were the one that had engaged the child with the material. Alright, the next thing is to assess the artistic value, i.e. elements of design, aspects, and the iconographical status of the item. Now this is a key, this is one of the sort of the linchpin of using found objects. Don't just collect things that you don't necessarily have a mind to use. I mean, if you have the space to just collect and then use over time, you can do that. But remember, the classroom only has a limited amount of space. And especially if you are a primary school teacher, you don't only teach art, you're teaching other things. So you have to kind of assess. So in the case of the leaves, I choose almond leaves and others because yes, they are firm and you can reuse them and so forth, but I look at the veins in them, I look at the overall shape of them and how I can kind of incorporate that with other leaves that I've also picked. And various designs that I can make with them, whether that be a pattern or whether that be an individual picture. Basically look at those qualities. And also too, the iconographical status may do with if you pick up something like a juice box, you probably want to show the label, the cover and a dragon, the Appleton logo. All these little things, they have an associative meaning in the brain, and you can play on them depending on the type of practice that you want to use it for, especially in college and especially at the high school level, where you are not just kind of just arranging the thing based on the shape of it and the elements of design, the texture of the thing, but you also want to look at how you can push the students to make a statement with the pieces. Alright, so the final thing in terms of the preparation is to acquire tools which process the items. Doesn't make any sense you collect a lot of bottles and so forth. And if you're not going to use the bottles as a whole, you don't have anything to cut them properly, or cut them in the way that you want to cut them. Cutting is just one way of processing. Some things you want to flatten them out, some things you want to bore holes in them. And that's the beauty of found objects, because you're repurposing. Cutting styrofoam may give you one look, but stabbing it may give you another look. Or using one of those sort of boring tools that the leather people use to create these very unique, defined circles, which look very Euclidean, may give you another look. So when you have the right tools, it gives you a much more wider range of things that you can do. Next slide for me. Alright, now this is a key point, especially when you're using found objects with children. It's important to speak with them about the importance of the use of found objects to their art lessons and sessions and any other subject area which is relevant. Teach them how to store and care for the items, along with how to make sure that they are clean before use. The younger the child is, the more you have to push that message. So if you store bottles, you store bottle caps and so forth. Maybe you just put them together and store them, but you didn't clean them before. And you have to make them be aware that if they're going to use the thing, ask you, the teacher, if they are clean and if they can use them, or they should check to see if the thing is clean. One of the things that I like to do, especially with bottle caps, which I use for printmaking also, is to store them in something clear. So they see what it is, we talk about it, I show them how to look if the thing is clean, and so forth. So they know, okay, if I want to use it, I should ask sir first, or sir, if I don't immediately see sir, if I open it, I don't just put my hand on it, I kind of move it around and see if I see any dirt on it or something like that. Alright, next slide. Alright, so coming back to the importance now. So we've looked at the defining, we look at how to especially talk with children about foreign objects, how to store them, all of that kind of thing. The importance, as I had started before, you know, in terms of its financial benefit. But secondly, from a much more creative standpoint, it expands opportunity for creative expression. It literally does. We don't have the time now. I'm probably going to show you some examples before we finish. But just in printmaking alone, and the reason why I chose printmaking too, printmaking facilitates so much use of foreign objects. I mean, I have the bottle caps here, I could use styrofoam, and as I said, I'll show you some examples of that. Additionally, it also exposes students to an established art tradition. Not so much of foreign objects itself, but if you use it for collage, for example, it gives you an opportunity to talk about artists that use collage, and including Jamaican artists like a David Boxer or Osmond Watson and people like that. Or even a Dan Scott. And can even give you connections with other artists globally that has used foreign objects like a Romeo Burden and so forth. Very famous Black American collages. Now, adding to that, it localizes and personalizes the art learning experience. When a child can take something from his home, whether that be a gold seal, butter box, or the box that a dolly came in and so forth, and then you show them how to use it and repurpose it, it has an immense effect on them. And I mean, I've seen that personally. I remember getting some students to carry some old t-shirts and old shirts, and we cut them and turned them into clothing for figures that we were using, and they were just totally into the exercise because they saw how they could now come up with clothing in the fashion that they wanted it for their collages. No, so again, it personalized and localized because they were, in some cases you're using very Jamaican stuff, in other cases you're using stuff that the child has owned or is familiar with. 5, lessens the fear factor which affects the performance of the students. I've heard that come up a number of times about I can't draw. I think printmaking and collage helps to bridge that gap. I mean, Mr. Watson is a big advocate of arts which does not include that you have to draw, that using that to break the barrier, to get to, not having that fear to actually draw and paint later on. And using foreign objects can really help in that. Next slide.